We lost a legend this week. James Earl Jones had an amazing, incredible career that spanned many, many decades across really every conceivable genre of entertainment, from being an incredible master of the spoken word, narrating incredible works like the Bible. James Earl Jones, I've got it on disc, on CDs. James Earl Jones narrates the Bible. An incredible actor, both on stage and screen. Tony Award-winning actor, won 2 Tony Awards. And he's technically an EGOT. The little asterisk that you get there is that the Oscar was an honorary Oscar. So when you get into the world of EGOTs, there's those that have won all the competitive awards, and there are some that have won, honorary awards. But you know what? I mean, when you get that close and you're James Earl Jones, he's probably overlooked. He probably should have won a competitive Oscar at some point. So let's just give it to him anyway. But incredible, incredible guy. And you know what, Jim? When someone like this passes away, and they've been around for decades and decades, it's always more impressive when you don't hear a single bad thing about them. I have never heard anyone say anything bad about James Earl Jones.
No, it definitely seemed like he was the type of guy who had a perfect personality. He was a very generous and supportive and collaborative actor and performer by all accounts. And everyone really was touched by something from sharing the stage or screen with him, or microphone, whatever the case may be. I mean, you talk about him being an EGOT. He's beyond an EGOT, really, because EGOT is beneath James Earl Jones.
Yeah, EGOTs want to be James Earl Jones, right? Isn't that what?
No kidding. Well, look at the scoreboard, my friend. 3 Tony Awards, 2 Emmy Awards, the honorary Oscar, Academy Award you were talking about. He did win a Grammy. Yeah. He had a Golden Globe. He's a Golden Globe winner, a SAG Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. He won the National Medal of Arts, the Kennedy Center Arts, and on top of it all, the little cherry on top, he's a Disney legend. So, I mean, his trophy case was full.
Yeah.
And his achievements were even fuller. And his voice was the fullest. One of the greatest voices ever to be behind a microphone. Yeah. Move over, Orson Welles. James Earl Jones is the king. He's more than just the Lion King. He is the king of all vocal performances.
Yeah,
that's my take on him.
Yeah, really incredible. Obviously, my first understanding of who he was through Star Wars. And as a kid, obviously I didn't necessarily put 2 and 2 together until I would see some of the making of stuff. As 5-6-year-old kid, I just assumed that the actor in the suit was the actor doing the voice. Would find out that wasn't the case. And then as I started to grow up, and you go through that phase where you kind of discover that there's this thing called actors, and there are other things. And as a Star Wars fan growing up, if there was a Star Wars actor in something coming on TV, a movie that I hadn't seen, I had to watch it. I wanted to watch it. And James Earl Jones was obviously one of those. And he did this fantastic series called Gabriel's Fire. I think that might be what one of his Emmys was for. And he played a character that had been in prison and was being let out, and he was getting his first taste of freedom. And he gets a hot dog from this street vendor. This scene, I still remember this scene. I was probably 11, 12 years old when I saw this. And he's first time out of prison in many, many years. He gets this hot dog, and the scene, he just can't believe how it tastes, how it smells, the freedom, all of that. And it was such a moving performance that after 40 years, I still remember that performance. 30 years, I remember that performance from James Earl Jones. Also, in I think it was 8th grade, we listened to a record album. My speech teacher brought in an album of James Earl Jones doing a one-man play. And the name of it escapes me, but I just thought it was so cool that I got to spend at least one class in school listening to Darth Vader doing this play. So, he's one of those figures, one of those characters, one of those people that you just kind of assumed would always be there because his voice was everywhere, whether it be CNN or narrating the Bible or in your favorite movies, Lion King, Field of Dreams. And then when they're gone, it just seems so final,
Yeah. Well, at least with James Earl Jones, Darth Vader will live on. And James Earl Jones's vocal performance as Darth Vader will live on in new stories because he sold the rights to his voice to Disney so they can continue to create dialogue for the Dark Lord in future Star Wars productions via AI.
Yeah.
So my son brought up something to me today. He's like, did James record any specific things for Lucasfilm? He thought he had heard that somewhere, but I don't believe that's the case. I believe Lucasfilm is making a full-on recreation of the way Darth Vader sounded in the 70s and 80s.
Agreed.
That's the specific voice they're going for. Because as we know, James, his voice did age, and Darth Vader sounded maybe, a little tiny little bit off in things like Star Wars Rebels and Rogue One. There was a different overall sound because of the obvious time that had gone on between the 70s and then when James came back to Star Wars, it was in the mid 2010s. So, hey, let's get into an audio tribute.
Well, I got a quick question though for you. I'm
curious. Sure.
I think the last thing he would have recorded new for Lucasfilm would have been for Rise of Skywalker, right?
No. Oh, well, maybe there's a VAR. I'm sorry. Can I say that again? There's a VR game called Vader Immortal, I think was the name of it.
Yep. Yes.
And that featured the voice of James Earl Jones. And that may have been recorded prior to the Rise of Skywalker. I think you're absolutely right. I think at least that's the last time we heard him in any Star Wars production.
Yeah. That wasn't the AI. And the stuff they did for Kenobi was phenomenal. I mean, it was the Vader of Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, because the Vader in A New Hope is just a little more tinny, a little less resonant, a little less bassy. But the one that they did for Kenobi was just right out of that, Empire Jedi era.
Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing and scary what some of this technology can do now. But if a guy like James Earl Jones can cash in on his legacy and leave a big nest egg of cash for his family, then God bless him. That's all I got to say. As long as the actual talent gets compensated for the work. And the thing about James Earl Jones that we were talking about at the start of this tribute is the mad amount of awards he's received, EGOT or no EGOT. It doesn't matter when you have a trophy case as full as James Earl Jones does. But I did want to just play the one part of audio that we have from the 2011 Oscars when James received his Lifetime Achievement Award. Unfortunately, it was one of those things that happened prior to the actual Academy Awards broadcast.
Oh, we all know that. At a ceremony held previously.
Yeah. It was one of those. James was performing in London in a stage production and couldn't make it to LA for the Academy Awards. So they gave him the award, I think, on stage in the theater where he was performing. So here is a little bit of audio from the presentation, the video that they showed during the 2011 Oscars celebrating James Earl Jones and his lifetime achievement in cinema.
James Earl Jones from Star Wars,
I am the Father.
The Lion King,
Remember who you are.
to Shakespeare, you're always so damn good.
I'm more than flabbergasted. There's a word I've learned here in Britain. They say, I'm gobsmacked.
Wow.
I love that.
I do too.
Gobsmacked.
That voice, you know, and it was so natural. You know, it was just like breathing. You know, for him, there was no put on. It was just you know, whenever you see somebody that has one of those iconic voices, and it's hard to think of anybody more iconic than him. It's just incredible. It's just incredible. What an instrument he had.
It's not a put on, but he definitely would act with that voice.
Oh,
and
sure,
there's a
of
huge,
course. But
there's a huge difference between the original Star Wars, which was just a one-day gig for him. He was in and out of there, read the lines, didn't know anything about it. And Jedi. You hear and Empire.
Oh, yes.
You hear a huge difference in the performance. He adds so much more to that performance in Empire Strikes Back. Because Darth Vader was primarily a goon in the original Star Wars.
Right.
He really was. He didn't really become a fully fleshed out character until Empire Strikes Back. One of the best, highest virtues of that sequel is the fact that it made Vader an actual fleshed out individual. And that didn't really exist prior to Empire. He was more, like I say, a goon. He would have probably been more in the Michael Myers, Jason from Friday the 13th club if they had meetings, as opposed to
henchman.
The more Shakespearean, I would even say, kind of realization of the character of Darth Vader and the tragedy that surrounded the character, the duality of the individual inside the black armor. All of that stuff came to life in Empire Strikes Back.
You know, and there's a lot made about the fact that he only was paid $7,000 to play the role of Darth Vader in the original Star Wars, in New Hope.
Yeah,
$7,000. So I just did a little math. I found that there's about 22 lines of dialogue in that first Star Wars film that we hear in the film. Now there's, you know, probably stuff that they cut out, but it's about $318 per line. That's not too bad for a day's work. No. And
especially with 1977 money.
Well, I was going to say, what was $7,000, you know, worth in 1977? I'm guessing. Oh, according to trusty Google, it's about $35,000 today. Wow, that's crazy. So, still not much. But here's the thing: I think a lot of people, Jim, miss that Star Wars was a relatively low budget film for the time. So it's not like he got this money for being a part of this huge franchise. And I think James did quite well by Lucasfilm over the years, and as well he should have.
Yes, and the legacy of Darth Vader and his contributions to that character was something that he celebrated not only in public but in private, and because he fully embraced his identity as Darth Vader, so much so that he revealed something very interesting on the Craig Ferguson show when he revealed that the persona of Darth Vader sometimes does enter into his private life and his hobbies.
I used to use a CB radio, and I used Darth Vader as my handle.
Did you really?
Freak people out.
Oh, Bennett did, yeah.
I had to stop doing that.
Oh, no, you should do it more often.
Truckers would just freak out, and I stopped doing it.
Well, a lot of the
because it sounded like Darth Vader.
Well, it is Darth Vader.
Yeah.
It is Darth. It's you did the voice of Darth Vader. It's Darth Vader.
Truckers would just freak out, you know?
Yeah. I remember hearing that. I was so happy because we played this before on this show. It's a great clip from the Ferguson show. But I was so happy to hear it because I remembered hearing him tell that story. It must have been on Carson or Letterman, you know, as a kid growing up. Jim, I wanted to share this because, you know, I've been really lucky to be professionally employed in the professional theater industry over the last 15 years. And of course, James Earl Jones casts an enormous shadow in that industry. He recently had one of the Broadway theaters named after him. And someone I know who's also a sort of a more behind the scenes, a legend in the business. I asked her if she had any memories of working with James Earl Jones, and she did. And so she sent me this note. She said, this 20-something at the time had the honor and pleasure of driving Mr. Jones around for his publicity day when he toured in the one-man show Paul Robeson 40 years ago. Just picture the two of us in my Chevy Chevette, and all this was happening when the media in the movie studios acknowledged that he was the voice of Darth Vader. We talked about it, and without requesting or prompting in his majestic and glorious voice, he kindly reenacted several scenes with the iconic lines from Star Wars for me in the car. When it appeared we were going to be late, he wanted to stop at a local store, returning to the theater for rehearsal. He told me, hold on a second, I'm so sorry. Okay. When it appeared we were going to be late, he wanted to stop at a local store. Returning to the theater for rehearsal, he turned to me and in his signature Darth Vader voice, he recited a brief line from Star Wars, "Leave it to me." Perfect pause and inflection. He was kind and a magnificent actor in person. I did see him again during my career and recounted the story. He said he remembered, but was, of course, too kind to say otherwise. It was a thrill of a lifetime. Rest, dear James Earl Jones. So just a personal friend of mine that actually had an interaction with James Earl Jones many, many decades ago as he was a touring actor at that time, still, you know, playing the boards, as they say, across the United States.
Leave it to me. I will deal with it myself. But yeah, he would embrace that stuff. He'd go on the CB and start to, "This is Darth Vader." and the truckers would be driving in the middle of the night, crapping their pants. Oh my God, the Dark Lord of the Sith. He's on my channel here. You know, what's your 1020, good fella? Or good buddy? That's a good fella. It's not a trucker. Good buddy. So, yeah, James, he definitely embraced Darth Vader, and we embraced James Earl Jones as the voice of Darth Vader. As Star Wars fans, we've watched Star Wars 500 times. And one of those 500 times I was watching the original film from 1977, I came across a puzzling situation as far as the audio goes. James Earl Jones was delivering a line as Darth Vader. And as we all know, Darth Vader's breathing is regulated by an iron lung that's built into his armor. It's a respirator. He's constantly having oxygen fed to his lungs because they're so singed from the heat of Mustafar, he cannot breathe on his own. He needs that assistance. So Darth Vader himself doesn't have to breathe, while the machinery does the breathing for him. Well, if you listen closely to the scene in A New Hope, when they're gathered around with those Imperial officers and Grand Moff Tarkin is there and Admiral Mahdi and he chokes Mahdi and all of that stuff. Yeah. Famous scene. Everyone knows it. On board the Death Star. It's the first time we actually see Darth. Well, not the first time. We saw him choke Captain Antilles at the beginning of the film, but this is right before he chokes Mahdi. And I isolated a piece of audio because, as you said, Jason, the Star Wars film, it was low budget for such an ambitious project in the mid-70s. And so, and it was a rush job in certain points. at certain times. And I think the rush job was happening here during the audio sessions, and when they would lay the audio of James Earl Jones over the film, they should have edited it a little more than they did, but they were probably running short of time, whatever. So you actually hear James Earl Jones himself breathing on the microphone, which is impossible for Darth Vader to do because Darth Vader is hooked up to a respirator. The respirator, we hear it constantly. You shouldn't be hearing Darth Vader then breathing underneath the respirator.
True.
Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
Am I right? I'm not a doctor. I'm not some medical technician, but that's how I see it. So I took this piece of audio. Listen closely. Listen closely, and you'll hear James Earl Jones breathing between lines.
A tremor in the force. The last time I felt it was in the presence of my old master.
Yeah.
So it's right
real quick.
Where he says, he says a presence in the force. Then he breathes. He takes a breath of air. And then he says, the last time I felt it. So we're going to slow it down. We'll actually play it in real time one more time so everyone can hear it.
A tremor in the force. The last time I felt it was in the presence of tremor in the force. The last time I felt it was in the presence of my old master.
You hear him breathing all through that thing. So I slowed it down so you can even hear it better. Check this out.
A tremor in the force. The last time I felt
Hear that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you hear.
I mean, that's a flaw.
Yeah,
that should have been erased. That should have been cut out of the tape.
Yeah,
it's a flub. It's a flub. And that, I've watched these Star Wars films 500, 600 times a piece. I'm almost going to start changing it to, I've seen Star Wars 600 times. What do you think about that, Tracy Morgan? I've seen Star Wars 600 times. And that's the only instance anywhere where I hear James Earl Jones breathing on mic, taking a breath between lines. If you've heard something, let me know. Show at rebelforceradio.com.
Wow.
Also with Anthony Daniels, there's certain times where you can hear him breathing, and droids don't breathe. So the whole thing is a mess. They should have hired me. I would have gone there 7 years old, and I said, just give me the razor blade and point me to the reel machine, and I'm going to cut that stuff. So, all right. But so James Earl Jones, beyond the original Star Wars trilogy, we never heard him again. After he never appeared in the prequels, there was never any dialogue for Darth Vader in the prequels. He showed up at the end of Revenge of the Sith and folded his arms.
Oh no, he did
about it.
No, he did.
Where
is Padme?
Oh,
is
you're
she
right.
safe?
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then of course.
I'm so familiar with that. Why am I neglecting to remember Revenge of the Sith and that famous moment? Is she safe?
Yeah.
Is she all right? No. All right. So, but after that, okay, that's 2005. We went through a stretch of time where we didn't hear James Earl Jones as Darth Vader at all. As a matter of fact, they brought in the guy who was famous for a YouTube series called Chad Vader. And they brought him in. His name was Matt Sloan, and LucasArts specifically brought him in to do the voice of Vader on video games like The Force Unleashed. And he did a really good James Earl Jones voice. But that's not James Earl Jones.
Right.
Well, finally in 2014, Star Wars Rebels brought James Earl Jones back into the fold. And you can hear him all in the very first episode, you hear him, and then you hear him all throughout season 2. And with James Earl Jones returning to Star Wars, and we were doing weekly after shows and talking about Star Wars Rebels a lot, we found the opportunity to have a little bit of fun in the old RFR Sound Lab with James Earl Jones returning to Star Wars Rebels. And here's what our crazy minds came up with.
This is LRC-01. I'm bringing in a citizen under a charge of treason.
What?
I'm bringing in a citizen under a charge of treason.
What?
This is LRC-01.
What?
This is LRC...
What? What?
LRC-01. I'm bringing in a citizen under a charge of treason.
What?
Man, we have a lot of fun here at RFR.
It wasn't quite the reintroduction that we were hoping for of James Earl Jones as Darth Vader. A little one note, I might say. I think James was kind of phoning that one in, taking the easy money, but...
Oh, I love it. I have a lot of laughs in that sound, man. So, Star Wars Rebels heralded the return of James Earl Jones into the fold as voicing the character of Darth Vader in Star Wars. So the next big production in which James Earl Jones provided the voice for the Dark Lord is, of course, famously Rogue One. And he was great in Rogue One. I mean, it was just felt just so right to have James Earl Jones back and Darth Vader back on the silver screen in a Star Wars movie, which still maintains the best. You can say it's the best of all of the Disney Star Wars films. Rogue One. Yes. Rogue One. I can't think of any debate that would make that not the best. And Gareth Edwards, great guy, great director. He is the guy who shot the majority of Rogue One. We know about the famous reshoots, etc. But for the large part, the film is Gareth's vision, and he was present for all aspects of the production itself, including the vocal recording, the ADR sessions, the additional dialogue recordings, or whatever ADR stands for. That's not what it stands for.
Additional
automated
dialogue. I think
automated. I think it's automated dialogue recording. Automated, I think it is. But that's, when they place it over the film and stuff. And so Gareth was there for those recording
automated
sessions.
Dialogue replacement.
There it is.
Yeah.
So it's an art, in my opinion, the way they are able to dub voices over actors. Sometimes it's the same actor, sometimes it's an entirely different actor, like Goldfinger, But even like examples from the early 60s, like Goldfinger, it just amazes me at the accuracy in which these audio wizards are able to pull all of that off and give us a sense of reality, that it actually is that person on screen delivering exactly that dialogue. And so Gareth Edwards was there for the Darth Vader shoots for Rogue One, and also he was there for the ADR recording sessions with James Earl Jones for Rogue One, and he told a story about being there in the studio with the legendary actor at Star Wars Celebration Europe in 2016. So let's hear what Gareth has to say.
We finished filming in December, and I got straight on a plane to New York to do a voiceover recording with a gentleman called James Earl Jones. Now, I can't tell you what role he plays in the film because I don't want to give that away. But what's really funny is I went there with Matt Wood from Skywalker Sound, and we were doing and we're all being very professional. And the way that ADR works is obviously they got their back to you, they're watching the screen and they're doing the lines, and then he'd turn around and ask you if that was okay. So every time he'd do a line, and I don't want to give anything away, but there was one point where, and we were all like, yes, hi James, yeah, this is great, you're doing really well, yes, thank you. And then he does this one line where he says the word power. And we just both looked at each other and had this nerdgasm. And we were like reduced to 3-year-olds. And then suddenly he looked back and we suddenly went, that was great, James, if we could just do that one more time. Thank you.
I could totally see Matt doing that. Yeah.
Just one more time, can you please? That's fantastic.
But I know what that's like. You're in the different booth. You're usually separated by a big, thick thing of glass. And you're in there, you got the controls, and the talent is in the other room, and they have a microphone, and you're doing everything you can to maintain the most perfect professional atmosphere and situation for the talent. And then they deliver something like a big Darth Vader line coming from James Earl Jones, and Matt and Gareth are in the producer's booth just freaking out. They're like, high five. Yeah, man. And then Matt calmly hits the thing. Oh, that's great, James. Can we get one more, please? It happens. It happens.
Incredible.
So that's Gareth Edwards in 2016, relaying an incredible experience he had working with the late, great James Earl Jones. James was also somebody who wouldn't mind having a little fun, even, poking a jab at himself, maybe just to be a little silly with his world-class vocal cords. And the silliest moment we have in the RFR archives comes from a James Earl Jones appearance on the Gayle King show. And Gayle handed him lyrics to the Justin Bieber song, Baby, Baby, Baby. And asked James, with his incredible pipes, to vocalize the lyrics of the Justin Bieber song. So, wow, I want to hear how that all went down. So let's hear the tape.
I love people who've never seen Star Wars.
I know,
I've never heard Justin Bieber. But here I go.
Okay.
Are we an item, girl? Quit playing. We're just friends. What are you saying? Said there's another, looked right in my eyes. My first love broke my heart for the first time. And I was like, baby, 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 oh. Like baby, 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 no. Like baby, 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 oh. I thought you'd always be mine, mine.
Oh, God. You have to be somebody like, oh, I'm sorry, my microphone's doing stuff. Check 1, 2. Am I coming through okay?
Coming through, yeah.
All right, sorry. But like somebody like Gayle King, who's known on a national level and is on the CBS network and stuff, maybe she can get away with asking James Earl Jones that. But here at Rebel Force Radio, if we ever had that opportunity, I think you or me would have taken that with James as well. And he probably would have obliged. He seems like a cool guy,
That's
who would
exactly
play
the
along.
Kind of guy yes. Have fun. Because you don't get the sense that he ever took himself too seriously. I think
well, maybe later in his career, when his legacy had already been firmly established. But I could imagine him as a young man coming up in theater, that he had to deal with challenges just like a lot of actors do, and probably even more so. And so he probably, I think he's the type of guy who took himself really, really seriously in the early parts of his career. And then as he became more publicly known as Darth Vader, I mean, who can't have fun with Darth Vader? Well,
when you get a little economic security underneath you, yes, then you can afford to have a little bit more fun. Yeah, absolutely. So we had to take the audio from the Gayle King show and we ran it down into the old crazy RFR sound lab and decided to take the lyrics that James Earl Jones read, the Justin Bieber lyrics, and put it through our Darth Vader filters to try to get a little bit more of a Dark Lord of the Sith take on a Justin Bieber song. So that's what we did.
And I was like, baby, 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 oh. Like baby, 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 no.
I remember that like it was yesterday. The no is just the perfect little button on the end of that. That's I don't remember him selling it quite to the back of the house like he did there on the Gayle King show. A little extra something there, but
yeah. Oh, that's what happens when it goes through our Darth Vader filters. Yeah. Oh, so a thing that's been making the rounds since we got the sad news of Mr. Jones's passing is some clips from an appearance he made on The Big Bang Theory. I've been seeing a lot of this stuff getting circulated around. So, of course, we here on Rebel Force Radio want to make sure this is as complete of a tribute to James Earl Jones as possible. And these Big Bang Theory clips are well worth it. So we're going to take a look at the first one. We got a video clip here of a moment in the Big Bang Theory when Sheldon meets James Earl Jones. He's stalking James at a restaurant.
Yeah, as he would.
And their encounter takes an unusual turn.
Let me guess. You like Star Wars. You know, I've been in other movies. But you don't care about those, do you? I have one thing to say to people like you. I like Star Wars too. Care to join me?
Thank you.
Dream come true as he sits there at the restaurant.
My friend Leonard said if I bothered you while you were eating, you'd think I was a creepy stalker.
Well, your friend Leonard sounds like a real weenie.
He is, Mr. Earl Jones. He is.
He calls him Mr. Earl Jones.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You know, if I don't know, I felt like in that scene, because he's there in front of Sheldon, I felt like James as an actor was really channeling the Vader in that scene. He was really hitting those notes, as he was delivering that dialogue, almost like he was trying to evoking him, because you see him in other roles, especially later in when he's on in years, and it's a breezier kind of delivery. But that was awesome. I've never seen that one. The next one I've seen it many times, and I love this. This is one of my all-time faves.
So after dinner, naturally, Sheldon and James Earl Jones hit the town. And they go to a karaoke bar. They do all kind of crazy stuff. And late night, James Earl Jones takes Sheldon into a neighborhood, to somebody's house. And Sheldon's a little confused. And here's what happens.
I don't understand what we're doing. Whose house is this?
Carrie Fisher. And she's a little crazy, so get ready to run.
He comes out with a baseball bat after they rang the doorbell and ran.
Anymore, James.
Then why am I laughing?
Little classic ding dong ditch situation with
pranking Carrie Fisher, and the best line of that is, "She's a little crazy, so get ready to run."
And of course, she comes out wearing a robe and holding a baseball bat, which is usually. So that's a classic moment, a great moment in sitcom history with James Earl Jones guest starring alongside Carrie Fisher on The Big Bang Theory. Apparently, shooting that was the first time the two of them met.
Really?
Which I find kind of hard to believe, but obviously they never shared any scenes on screen in Star Wars.
Right.
Apparently James voiced all of the Darth Vader dialogue by himself in the studio.
Right.
But you would have thought they would have met each other at maybe a
a premiere,
premiere, you know, or something like that.
Now, James also, as far as I know, never did the convention scene. I don't think he ever did a convention appearance.
He didn't.
He would have been absolutely mobbed. I can't even imagine.
Right. Yeah. He was never accessible that way.
Right.
He's the type of guy you stand outside the theater door in the back.
That's right.
And wait for the production to end. And then you shove your Darth Vader pictures at him with a Sharpie. And he probably was very gracious and signed everything. Just from judging from what
I've never heard anything otherwise.
Yeah. He just seems like a very warm, personal guy, you know, like your favorite grandpa, you know.
Yeah.
But he appeared in The Big Bang Theory. Like I said, that was a great sitcom moment. Other sitcoms paid tribute to James Earl Jones without him necessarily making a guest appearance in them. And one particular shout out I've always enjoyed is from That 70s Show. Kitty and Red went to the movie theater in 1977 to see what all the fuss was about. So they have a little conversation while they're sitting in the movie theater watching Star Wars.
That voice. James Earl Jones.
Eric actually liked this. That kid's on dope.
So a little shout out to James Earl Jones from That 70s Show. And then we're going to wrap up our audio tribute to the late, great James Earl Jones with one of my favorite moments from Star Wars and pop culture history. Comes from this James Earl Jones shout out from the show Glee from Fox. Jason, you were a big Glee fan, weren't you?
I watched a lot of Glee, yeah.
Well, occasionally they would throw down some exceptional Star Wars references, pretty much the best holiday special references out there.
That's for sure.
But this James Earl Jones call out is one of my all-time favorites.
This morning I woke up and decided to swallow the sun. It's my James Earl Jones impression.
First of all, that is offensive. He shot Martin Luther King.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
I think that was the other James Earl. I think they got it.
James Earl Ray is who you're looking for, young lady. Boy, the public school system of the Glee universe really let that poor girl down.
Tell you
as
what,
far as U.S. history goes, but
you know, when they were supposed to all be going to Ohio schools in that show, so I think they were kind of knows what they were trying to say.
That makes sense. Judging from your ignorance while we were talking about baseball last week, I was like, boy, the Ohio public school physical education departments really let Jason Swank down as a young man.
Boy, they tried. I was a worthy opponent of any physical activity or labor they tried to inflict on me in school. I tell you that.
Well, that's it. That's James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Gone, but not forgotten. Sure. Legend.
Yeah.
The voice of Darth Vader forever. And I can't wait to see what sort of performances he has in the future for the Dark Lord.
Right.
Knowing that Lucasfilm with AI can recreate his voice on a whim.
Yeah.
Might end up as a character.
Lucasfilm. And only Lucasfilm. Yeah. So they're not going to... You know, the CNN and some of the other things that he's done, that's it. So it's an exclusive rights holding that he has. He lost his wife, I believe, a couple years ago. So he was a widower, but he has a son who is still very active in preserving his dad's legacy. And so anyway, R.I.P. Great James Earl Jones.